Hello. I the camera's not as it should be, but we're figuring things out. Oh, I think it works better if it's like this or something of that nature. All right, so welcome. We are doing experimental podcasting once more. I think I called it X Vlog. That is a nard, a nard. That is a nod to Varn Vlog. So, first of all, we're going to share screen, of course. We got frickin' one of the greatest Wikipedia pages of all time, Pyrrhonism. So we got Pyrrhonist. Pyrrho. Let's just appreciate. I'm not going to talk about this too much, but it's just I want to see if he has. Sometimes they say like who influenced you and who did you influence. I wonder if they had anything that he was influenced by. But cool guy. Anyway, so we have skepticism, but what I really want to talk about is over here. So this is where I actually posted this live stream. We'll see if Pyrrhonism comes back into play. I think it just might. But so Janus, so in case you don't know, you should. If you've seen anything from the Criterion Collection, I don't know if it would be called Janus Studio, but it's like, it's like Janus Films, right? See? So I think about this when I think about Janus, but then Janus is also like, there's a thing that's named after, right? Which is, the god of beginnings, gates, transitions, times. Anyway, passages, frames, and endings. Okay, but it's good to know. But so when we're diving in now, we have entered the portion where now I'm commenting on other people's discourse instead of endlessly just enumerating my own discourse, which is of course constantly in dialogue with other discourses, more of the past or of a general nature. But let's now dive into commenting on Twitter things that nobody cares about. Okay, so basically what's being discussed here are LLMs. So in case you don't know what that is, it's called a large language model, if I'm not mistaken. So like the whole point is it's like a kind of computer which like does stuff with language. It like really figures out the statistics of language. So that's what ChatGPT is. Does this work like this? I don't know. So let's say we just say Baudrillard, Janus, Pyrrho, Napoleon, Christ, Weil. Who else do we put? Oh, no, not Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa is one of my favorites. I just like Mansa Musa because of the poetic image of giving away so much that you destroy things in your generosity. Let's see, but we do need some more diversity. Who should we put? Well, if we just put Turner, we're using just last names. That guy from the Haitian Revolution, funnily enough, but I don't really want him. Well, that's not it. I don't know how to spell his name. Toussaint O'Fallure or whatever. Anyway, whatever. We'll just do this. So, it's just like stuff. Nice. So then it connects and reflects. Okay, not bad. So anyway, like that's what a large language model does. Like I just fucking said random words and then it is designed to respond in a certain way. So it is basically given somehow a framing. I guess that's ambiguous how that would even work. How is it that you can tell a computer language and then it like affects what it does? Like you can tell it like be like a professor, and then you could say that it gives you a statistically plausible like series of words as though it could come from a professor or whatever it thinks a professor is, right? But the question, anyway, I don't understand how it works. That should be obvious. So the point is, that's what's being discussed here. So Eliezer Yudkowsky. So this person is is known as a rationalist. I don't actually know a lot about this. I think there's people who are basically really good at logic, but like, or something. Like they're good at something. They're not really good at logic. Like there's people who like get all wrapped up. Anyway, I don't know. It's called like less wrong, right? This is a big deal or something. I knew people back in the day who went on this shit. Like I never am on here. Like this shit is a little bit I mean it's fine. Everybody's fine, but just like I find it a bit insufferable. Like it is rationalism, right? It's called like internet rational. I don't know if it's called internet rationalism, but that might be a way to figure out what it is that I'm talking about. Internet rationalist community, something like this. See, like this is what I'm talking about, right? But like I'm not here to comment on that part. It's probably related. I mean, it's PR's corrosive reputation is not. It's like okay, whatever. Anyway, Yudkowsky, this guy is like from there. He's like been arguing about stuff. Yudkowsky is like he like thinks we're gonna die, right, because of artificial intelligence. So it's the whole thing of like a P doom. I don't know if it's probably on Know Your Meme. Doom Paul, it's happening. I guess not. It should be though. But like P Doom is like a whole thing. I guess just because I don't know. That's weird. So basically, it's determined AI safety, the first probability of catastrophic outcomes or doom as a result of artificial intelligence. Okay, so first of all, like it's important to understand like the way that we can project our anxiety about certain things onto other things. So obviously, like creating killer robots that we can't control that destroy us, that is scary. It's reminiscent of the ultimate bad version of The Sorcerer's Apprentice. I can't spell, but that's okay because, well, no, not the movie, but there's a poem by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Okay, yeah. How long is it? Because I speak German, so that's the problem. Because if it's like, oh shoot, the problem is, so this is where it would have to be web links. Ausgabe letzter Hand. Okay, we can do that. Oh, it's not that long. Okay. Sick. I'm gonna grab some water right quick. So apologies. I hit the spot. All right. Der Zauberlehrling. I fucked up the first line. Hat der alte Hexenmeister sich doch einmal wegbegeben. Und nun sollen seine Geister auch nach meinem Willen leben. Seine Wort und Werke merkt ich und den Brauch. Und mit Geistesstärke tue ich Wunder auch. Walle, Walle, manche Strecke, das zum Zwecke Wasser fließe. Und mit reichem, vollem Schwalle zu dem Bade sich ergieße. Und nun komm, du alter Besen, nimm die schlechten Lumpenhüllen. Bist schon lange Knecht gewesen, nun erfülle meinen Willen. Auf zwei Beinen stehe, oben sei ein Kopf, eile nun und gehe mit dem Wassertopf. Walle, Walle, manche Strecke, das zum Zwecke Wasser fließe und mit reichem von dem Schwalle zu dem Bade sich ergieße. Seht, er läuft zum Ufer nieder, wahrlich, es ist schon an dem Flusse und mit Blitzeschnelle wieder ist er hier mit raschem Gusse. Schon zum zweiten Male, wie das Becken schwillt, wie sich jede Schale voll mit Wasser füllt. Stehe, stehe, denn wir haben deiner Gaben vollgemessen. Ach, ich merke es, wehe, wehe, hab ich doch das Wort vergessen. Ach, das Wort, worauf am Ende er das wird, was er gewesen. Ach, er läuft und bringt behende, wärst du doch der alte Besen. Immer neue Güsse bringt er schnell herein, ach, und 100 Flüsse stürzen auf mich ein. Nein, nicht länger kann ich's lassen, will ihn fassen, das ist Tücke. Ach, nun wird mir immer bänger, welche Miene, welche Blicke. O, du Ausgeburt der Hölle, soll das ganze Haus ersaufen? Seh ich über jede Schwelle doch schon Wasserströme laufen. Ein verruchter Besen, der nicht hören will. Stock, der du gewesen, steh doch wieder still. Willst am Ende gar nicht lassen, will dich fassen, will dich halten und das alte Holz behende mit dem scharfe Beile spalten. Seht, da kommt er schleppend wieder, wie ich mich nun auf dich werfe, gleich, o Kobold, liegst du nieder, krachend trifft die glatte Schärfe. Wahrlich, brav getroffen, seht, er ist entzwei, und nun kann ich hoffen, und ich atme frei. Wehe, wehe, beide Teile stehen in Eile schon als Knechte, völlig fertig in die Höhe, helft mir, ach, ihr hohen Mächte. Und sie laufen, nass und nässer wird's im Saal und auf den Stufen. Welch entsetzliches Gewässer, Herr und Meister, hör mich rufen. Ach, da kommt der Meister. Herr, die Not ist groß. Die ich rief die Geister, werde ich nun nicht los. In die Ecke, Besen, Besen, seid's gewesen, denn als Geister ruft euch nur zu seinem Zwecke erst hervor der alte Meister. So, you know, there's that, right? So I guess I'll read it to you of English so you know what the heck it is that we're freaking talking about, right? Should have modern English translation. I don't fucking think so. Okay. Shouldn't it be like? Oh, that looks pretty badass. But no, we want like from Fantasia modern English translation. That's not what I want. All right. The Sorcerer's Apprentice. Oh fuck, we should fucking do a rap beat. I think I can do that. But what would I use? I should use like my own shit, right? More. That way nobody can sue me. You understand? You understand like the levels of logic that are at play here? You probably don't. It's so advanced. Let's see. Mm-hmm. Okay, wait, we gotta start it over. Now that the old sorcerer has left me on my own at last, I can make his forces labor just exactly as I ask. I've learned in this tower his words and spells with these mental powers. His art is mine as well. Hurry, hurry, fetch the water, bring it quickly, come get it going. Fill the buckets and don't dawdle, fill the bath, we need it flown. So come on, you dry old broomstick, wrap yourself in these old rags. Servant is what you are, toothpick, obey me now. Do not lag. Stand up there on two legs, screw a head on top, run down the stream's edge with the water pot. Hurry, hurry, fetch the water, bring the coming, come and get it going. Fill the buckets and don't dawdle, fill the bath, we need it flowing. I don't know why I'm doing this. Anyway, the point of the story is that there's a fucking broom, right? And the guy fucking summons the broom to like move water for him, but then like it works too well, it's very efficient, and then he like tries to cut it in half, and then both halves, do the thing. That's like I don't know if this will work. There's like basically a lot of tiny little ashes. No. Oh, maybe it's in here's an Evil Dead 3. Yeah, so basically, and this is going to then overlap with Baudrillard. Spoiler alert. And so, sorry if this is, what are you going to do? You got to fucking, you got to be yourself. Anyway, there's a bunch of little ashes because the point is, like, mother freaking, he tried to cut the broom in half, or the person tries to cut the broom in half, but then the pieces rise up. So that's basically like half, or the person tries to cut the broom in half, but then the pieces rise up. So that's basically like, we should basically just go straight to the witch's teat, right? Of Baudrillardian goodness. So what is it that we're saying? We're looking for Moffrican, The Revenge of the Mirror People. I think it's here. Oh, weird. It's funny because he at a certain point he says like I've always had the Revenge of the Mirror People as like the horizon of my thinking, but maybe it's actually just in. My next guess is Perfect Crime. It could already be in whatever, but no, here it is. So first of all, like, okay, so remember what it is we're talking about, right? We're talking about the P Doom. And then, you have Eliezer Yudkowsky and like Janus. I don't know if Janus is really like rationalist or whatever. Janus I don't know that much about Janus, but I'm not impressed, right? Like, I like what is being said here because, Yudkowsky is saying nobody has figured out anything. Like, I would basically dispute this and say, like, the point is not about figuring anything out. Like Yudkowsky is like very, science brained or whatever. Like, a certain kind of chud, basically. So, I mean, everybody is. But anyway, I like this deflation of Janus because I think it would be easy to be like, oh my God, Janus, you're so profound. Like, but it's ultimately like, okay, you're getting a computer to generate text, right? You can do a prompt, but it's like, why is this interesting? What is it doing? Fundamentally, my thing is that there's such a thing as the cultural singularity. What matters is the way that the computers change, like, our how we relate to each other. So, like, it's fundamentally not about like we're all going to interact with computers and that's going to drive us crazy. It's like we're going to interact with the computers and we're going to drive each other crazy in the best way. Cultures create a faster rate. Like, yes, like we're becoming more culturally proficient. So, like, I mean, everybody produces and consumes culture all the time. There's no distinction there, but like basically everybody's becoming a great artist and a great critic at the same time. And like we're leveling up in certain ways. That's what we call uneven and combined development, right? But it's also, we're not stagist in the sense of like there are certain places. Oh, you're there, like you'll be there. Like there's no reason to be condescending, I guess, or really like feel like you already understand where somebody's going to go or what their destiny is, because the whole nature of being incarnated and still being, or not even still, but just like here's like there is a fundamental mysteriousness to destiny, so that whatever sense in which, not whatever sense, but like harping on and like trying to rub it in people's faces, right, that they need to be humbled, right, you're just begging, you're just creating dramatic tension for when you are inevitably humbled yourself, right? I mean, but anyway, like, what's the point? We are the artificial intelligences. That's also, is it here? Oh dear, I can't type. Okay. Yeah, so this is what I'm trying to say. When Baudrillard's talking, his whole thing is like artificial intelligence doesn't have artifice in it, nor not the shadow of an idea of illusion, seduction, or the play of the world, which is much more subtle, perverse, and arbitrary. See, this is what's interesting, because this is out of date because of these large language models, right? Like, they're, in a way, these things do have seduction. Like Baudrillard can sit there and be unimpressed, but like people can talk to these things and get talked into killing themselves, like, or doing anything. Like, this has changed people's lives. So anyway, but I think we still might be able to say something like there's not the shadow of artifice in it. I think that's interesting. But so thought, says Baudrillard, is a rhetoric of forms, of shifting illusion and appearances and anamorphosis of the world, not an analysis, right? So this goes back to what I was saying before in terms of, talking shit about, what these people are saying. I can figure out where that was. That was over here. I'm trying to talk about these things together. So like over here, it's not an analysis, right? So over here, right, Yudkowsky, right, Eliezer, or whatever, Eliezer, I don't know exactly how you say his name. Yudkowsky is not satisfied because, nobody has figured something out. And so, again, over here, Baudrillard, it's like not an analysis. Okay, we need to look up anamorphosis, because the thing is, Baudrillard does advocate analysis at some point, which is, conjuration of cells. But then we also want to go back to over here. But so basically what we're looking at over here is savage analysis. So Baudrillard does use this. I mean, he's also being edgy, right? He's calling it savage, blah, blah, blah. But it's like there is definitely a space from which, you know, you get to say this. Whether Baudrillard like gets there is certainly up to debate. If people want to be offended, like I'm here for it. Like, yeah, be offended. I think that's what's his name would say. But I don't mean it in that sense. I don't mean it like there's nothing you can do about it. It's like, yeah, absolutely, argue with me about it. But it's like, you know, what can I say? I have a hot take. Anyway, but I mean, like people would do that themselves. Like you can imagine an indigenous person being like, yeah, like we'll show you, we're gonna do it savage style, right? They're like reclaiming it. But it's like you could also perform an analogous symbolic function of like, this is what people mean by decolonization, but that's not really what it is, right? Like that's a really bad name for it because it's like the idea that you're undoing a process. And it's like you're not undoing anything. You are like escaping the thought horizon. You're like escaping the illusion that something is determined by what has informed it. Like it can continue to, anyway, something of that nature. I think I'm trying to go over here back to symbolic exchange and death again because I think Baudrillard says something about immigrants over here. Okay, well, I mean, there's a whole, okay. Only those who escape the swings and roundabouts of production and representation can disrupt these mechanisms and provoke from the depths of their blinded state a return to the class struggle, quote unquote, which might indeed mark the end of the struggle as a locus within the political, quote unquote. It is here that the intervention of immigrants in recent strikes takes on meaning. Because millions of workers find themselves, by means of the mechanics of discrimination, deprived of all representative authority, their appearance on the Western stage of the class struggle carries the crisis of representation to a crucial level, kept classless by society as a whole, including the unions, and on this point with the economic racial complicity of their quote-unquote rank and file. For the organized proletarian quote-unquote class, centered on its relations with political economic forces with the bourgeois capitalist class, the immigrant is quote-unquote objectively an enemy of the class. The immigrants play, through the action of this social exclusion, the role of analysts of the relation between workers and the unions, more generally of the relation between the class, quote unquote, and every representative authority of the quote unquote class. They are deviant as regards the system of political representation and of every authority who claims to speak in their name. This situation will not last. Unions and bosses have sensed the danger and have begun to reintegrate the immigrants as temporary full citizens, quote unquote, full-time extras on the stage of the quote unquote class struggle. And later on, he's saying the stakes at this level are extraordinary. The entire edifice of society threatens to collapse with the union's legitimacy and representativity. Adjudicators and other mediating bodies no longer count for much. Even the police are useless without the unions if the latter cannot police the factories and elsewhere. In May 68, it was the unions who saved the regime, but now their knell is being sounded. The import of the stakes is profoundly expressed in the utter confusion of events such as the Renault strike and May 68, and this holds good for student demonstrations just as it does for the Renault strikes, to strike or not to strike. Where do we stand on this? No one can decide anymore. What are the objectives? Where are the enemy? What are we talking about? Dude, Baudrillard is fucking broken. Like, this is why it's like, of course Baudrillard is the greatest of all time. Like, I mean, until, obviously. But, like, you know, like, yeah, you keep all your smart modern writers, all take motherfucking Baudrillard, okay? Come on. What are the objectives? Where are the enemy? What are we talking about? Okay, then, because the thing is, like, you know, the people, I don't know, what am I trying to say? Like, the kind of people that I'm talking to, like, I don't know, they're not really in Baudrillard's neighborhood. We'll put it that way. But the thing is, like, these people, like, or people, like, think they have answers to this question. Like, where's the enemy, right? It's like, oh, well, it's the imperialists. It's like, okay. It's like, we know where some of them are, right? Like the police, like we could find out, like I've never done this, right? But I mean, you could try and find, oh, people's houses, you know, you know, it's like, we found them. It's like, okay, but like, the point is like, what makes them the enemy, right? Where is the enemy? Like, and how do you change that? What are we talking about, right? What are the objectives, right? What is it you hope to achieve, right? Other than to like solidify your own, the semblance of your own self-representation by, you know, anyway, but it's funny because that's, yeah. It's actually funny. It's a very core aspect of my psychology or like my experience of incarnation. Because it's like, here I am, you know, basically saying that other people, right, are doing a bad job, right? Because they are too stuck on this term. Like they're too interested in, like basically what my imagination is, that people feel like they live in a world where, you know, imperialism, like the violence that everything is drenched in, is not acknowledged. So they're trying to get people to acknowledge the violence that everything is drenched in. And it's like dot 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 later on, we will stop the carnage or something. But it's like there's no leading from A to B there. Whereas, okay, so what would my story be? Basically, you want to do influence operations. So, like for strategic, rhetorical reasons as well as others, also just for the, I would say intelligence. Like, it's a limited framing, but like I definitely think I'm more motivated by not being stupid than like being a good person, right? Like, if I thought being a good person would mean that I was stupid, like I would not be a good person. But I do think that, being a good person, right? Basically, in terms of like, I don't know, like exploring things like ahimsa, or like the idea of like, oh, we could like prevent nuclear war and we could keep people alive and we could like basically, what to even say there? Like that's actually really funny. Like then if I became Lord of Heaven, like I would basically just like, I don't know, I'd want to know about everybody's experience. Like I would just be annoying. Like you could do whatever you want, but then like everybody has a time when they have to come into my office and like, let me know what's going on. I don't know, whatever. But it's like we can annoy people. We can annoy each other in that way. So that's the objectives, right? Like what is supposed to cease, right? Like so in terms of like alienation or whatever, like people are like, oh, I don't want to work for other people. It's like, well, bad news, right? Like the objective, and my objective is like everybody's gonna work for everybody else, right? There's no sense in which you're getting out of serving anybody. Like in actual fact, right? The problem is not that you are coerced into serving other people. The problem is that like people don't understand what serves them or something. So like there are people who are coercing others to serve them, but they don't understand like what is good for them. And it's very important, I think, to like harp on this point, because this is also relevant for this question of like, where are the enemy? And it's like the enemy is nowhere, right? Like that's very important. That's in Baudrillard Live. And I guess I'm just riffing. I'm just having fun here. I have to wait for the traffic to die down, and then I'm just gonna fucking move out of where I'm living because I'm sick of the situation. Just on the last day, I'm just describing. I need to go look at I might be breaking the lease. Anyway, no reason to talk to you about my legal situation. Who are the enemy? Right, we want Baudrillard Live. 1993. Somebody had a 1993 shirt today. I was like, banger year. That's when Jurassic Park came out. And Schindler's List. Crazy year from Steven Spielberg. But also Baudrillard Live. Is that enemies? Right. Okay, so let's just go. The presence of Nietzsche can be felt a little throughout your book. It is felt particularly in your determination to avoid being caught in the Western desire for meaning at any price, for interpretation, for endless commentary. Okay, again, meaning. Again, motherfucking Eliezer Yudkowsky wants to figure things out. Like, if you want to figure things out, like you're like, there's a reason like you're too dumb. Like you're not smart. Like you have to have intuition. You have to speak Dhamma language, right? So Buddha Dasa. Like you have to be, and that's why these people do Hinduism, right? They do jhanas, but it's like, are you really bad at it or something? Like, which is also why it's like, why am I gonna sit here and like noodle around with this like Janus? But all I'm doing is like teaching you. All you're doing is sucking up what I'm doing, and I never get to use the world-class computer. Like, so it's basically like, you have to give me, let's like really do it anyway. But I need to find people to do it with anyway. Point is, no religion. Start reading. Oh, dog. But yeah, we're gonna get there. What? Wait. Oh, is they're calling it scriptural language? Oh, wait, what? This is another kind of language. This is, okay, people language. There's language which is spoken. Speaking their language, realize the truth. Yeah, this is, why didn't it find this? That's what I wanted. Okay. This is basically what I'm talking about. When we meet together like this, I feel there is something which prevents us from understanding each other, and this thing is simply the problem of language itself. You see, there are two kinds of language. One is the conventional language that ordinary people speak, what I call people language. People language is used by the ordinary people who don't understand Dhamma very well, and by those worldly people who are so dense that they are blind to everything but material things. Oh my God. It's so amazing. Right. So like that, you know, like you don't fucking get it, right? So like I would say Western rationalists, right? Like they don't do Dhamma language whatsoever, right? Like this requires intuition, which is like, I mean, people like are like, oh, I don't use my feelings. These people, that's bullshit, right? People are emotional. We subscribe to David Hume, where, you know, reason is the slave of the passions, you know, like we affirm this. Or like, I mean, you can whatever, you can doubt anything. But like this is basically the position, right? And so these people over here, like to the extent that, you know, are we on Less Wrong? Are we talking about where's Less Wrong? Did I lose Less Wrong? I probably did. But it's like, you know, I'm sorry. Do we think that we're going to, or I'm sorry, Muhammad, right? You know, greater jihad, struggle against, okay, inner struggle against sinful behavior. Okay, that's cool. But like the problem is, yeah, the struggle against one's passions. Like, I'm sorry, Muhammad's wrong, right? Like, I'm sorry. Like, if this is a correct translation, that's really what we should say. It's like that can't be what it means in Arabic, right? Because, you know, if we're gonna accept, you know, we're gonna try and go along with Islam, right? We're gonna try and interpret it charitably. It's like that can't be what it means because that's incorrect. Like we are not struggling against our passions. Not all of them, anyway. And there is no place from which we can struggle, which is disassociated with the passions. And once we're talking about struggle, we gotta fucking go to. I just love. Oh, oops. Freaking war is justice, right? Oh my goodness, it's a lot. This is actually where like. So my what would it be, a theodicy? It's my apology, right? But it's basically an apology of the form of sorry not sorry. Like my apology for Western colonialism, for example, is, you know, again, we're back to the whole thing was made out of kindling, right? What is it called? Hateful Eight. Like this is what I'm talking about. Maybe I should just say, I'm going to show you on this. I don't really want to fucking like watch the video. But see, then it's like it doesn't fucking work, you know? You can't search it or something for some reason. Maybe this one. Wait. I mean, are you going to work? It's not good. It's like tough times for vending machine owners, you know? It's like, okay, well, this one's a little different, but it still probably doesn't work. I mean, I could find it. Let's just fucking find it. Sorry, there was a bad word there. Okay. So what is it that they're talking about? Oh, right. Exposition. Okay, right. Right. This is what I was trying to say. Well, the whole damn place was just made out of kindling. This is what I'm referencing, right? Okay, welcome to, you know, the script of the Hateful Eight. So the whole thing in the Hateful Eight is that Major Marcus Warren, who is this guy, he was in the Union Army, but he relished, you know, the idea of killing white people. But that was what he did in the war. So like it's like in the way that we think about things today, right? He did the right thing for the wrong reasons in terms of like getting the war. Anyway, that gets into the whole idea of like justice and war and everything like that. So I mean, war is justice, but that's not to say like there's a simplistic interpretation where you're like, right, like the Union going to war against the Confederacy is justice. And it's like, not in that way, like not in the sense that like, you know, in order to like you're just, and in order to make things just, you have to go to war against injustice. And it's just like it's a little bit deeper than that, you know. But this that's again where you're circling back to greater jihad, because it's like you can't take for granted your own justice. So if you're going to struggle against injustice, it must also be an internal struggle, which is again getting us back to ahimsa in Jainism, because it's this possession, right? Attachment to internal possessions. So internal possessions, like this is all again, we need to go back to Dhamma language, right? So like in terms of this, it's like what exactly do I mean by internal possessions? Like, you know, like there's a bunch of words that can describe it, but like this has to be felt, right? It means like yeah, like in a way it has to do with our priors, right? Like the way people would talk about this, check your priors or something. Okay, the prior is the distribution of the probability of an event absent further information. For instance, your prior when trying to figure out the probability someone will have a given grade will likely be the standard distribution. What exactly was the context of those utterances? Okay, which is basically has to do with like, I think Bayesian statistics. There's some basic like formula about it. And it's like, it's all well and good, you know, Bayes' theorem. This is what it's all based on, I think. But so the thing is that you have to estimate the probability, which is again where we come back to, you know, P doom, right? Do we have P doom here anywhere? Yeah. So like P doom, oh, this is really funny. Like this is people who think that like AI is going to kill us all, right? But so the thing is, as I was saying before, with like we are the AIs, is like we're going to kill ourselves. But I was also saying like this is related, you know, Faustian, you know, this is also related to why Spengler like called Western civilization like Faustian or whatever. Because spoiler, or no, wait, dude didn't write Faust, but the same person wrote Faust. And it's a similar thing where in Faust, you know, you're pursuing knowledge. And so in this, you're trying to use your ability to make things happen, right? Again, because that's science, right? Because what people hang science on, right? Because people will say, oh, you know, you can sit around and talk about cosmology and metaphysics, right? Or emotions or something. But like science and like things that are, you know, quantifiable, like you say, we're missing things, but we can predict the future, right? And it's like we can make things happen. And like that's where my rejoinder to that is again, basically again, the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Because the Sorcerer's Apprentice is able to make something happen, right? It's able to make the broom operate itself, right? So it's like, wow, you made something so amazing. But it's like, how do you know that you're not going to create something that you then can't control and it can destroy you, right? And that's where, you know, with respect to this Bayesian statistics business, you know, we're talking about probabilities, the probability of doom, of something happening, right? And so that's where, you know, that becomes important. Where's I going with that? But the thing is, you ultimately can't know, right? We don't have enough information to really be able to guess. So the question is, who cares, right? For somebody, for example, on the street, like whether they think everybody's going to die or not, like in a way, it doesn't matter. Like the worst thing that could happen, like what? Like somebody decides nothing matters and they want to kill everybody or kill people. It's like, okay, like you could have a mass murderer. Like people do that for all the time. Or, you know, what? Like somebody's going to be depressed that the world's going to end, so they don't do anything. And it's like, yeah, that's great. Like that's another form of enchartification in the sense of like, yes, like people who are driven into despair, like, I'm sorry, you're going to kill yourself. Like from the point of view of power, like it doesn't matter because that just means you're not disrupting anything. Like you are allowing the process to continue, whatever the process is. But the issue is that there's a whole bunch of people who are basically allowing a process to continue that it's going to kill you in the end. In a way, of course it is, because like the lights have to go out. This is now we're back to the 9 billion names of God, where it's like, yeah, the stars are going to go out. Or it's also related to The Last Question. I think that's Asimov, right? This is about the heat death of the universe. But either way, right, whether it's like it's divine destiny or it's the heat death of the universe or it's artificial intelligence, it's all basically the same story. And actually, it's reminding me of the comments on Society of the Spectacle. Be it our words or action, all must be measured by time. We must choose when we are able, for time and tide wait on no man. But then we are the puppets, and the firmament is the puppet master, in actual fact and not as a metaphor. For a time we acted on this stage, we went back one by one into the box of oblivion. And actually, that's where we need to go back to perfect crime again. And it's like, no, I don't. Okay, it does work. It's just like, no, I don't want to. Anyway. Oops. This is it. Excess is the world's excess, not ours. It is the world that is excessive. It is the world that is sovereign. So it's basically saying over here, we are the puppets and the firmament is the puppet master, in actual fact and not as a metaphor. For a time we acted on this stage, we went back one by one into the box of oblivion. Now I was looking at this before, but there's the concept of philosophy, right? I don't know if we don't really need the PDF. I don't know if we don't really need the PDF. We could use this. It's something like this. It sucks. It's somewhere close by. Basically, there's a time in this where the person, like, he's talking of philosophy or some shit, but it's basically like, do you think that this is happening for no reason, or do you think that there's some plan? And the Boethius in the story says, oh, well, I know there's some. There is some reason. So actually, now that's reminding me of what is it? It's something like this. Oh. Wow, I'm so good. And remember, when your Lord brought forth from the loins of the children of Adam their descendants and had them testify regarding themselves, Allah asked, am I not your Lord? They replied, yes, you are. We testify. He cautioned, now you have no right to say on Judgment Day, we were not aware of this. So that's related just because it's like, I forget what I was saying over here, but it's basically as this person was saying, yes, like everything happens for a reason. Like I see, which is basically, this is also part of the psychedelic experience, I think. But I think there's an important sense. Again, we're speaking. I don't know if I'd say we're speaking in Dhamma language, but like Dhamma language is relevant here as a concept. But it's basically like, shoot, I forgot what I was going to say. I actually had a good formulation. The realization, right? So it's like the realization that, oh yes, it was necessary. Like there's no questioning it, right? So that's where like we will all be humbled, because it's like, to the extent that it's like you're trying to say something shouldn't have happened, it's like you're eventually going to realize not only. So the thing is, not only that it was necessary, because that is to basically be saying that there's something else which is determining your destiny, and that's not true, right? We're squaring the circle in a way. We're going. It's an odd form of compatibilism. It's a pantheist, dissimulative. Neo-Techiist, right, paradigm. But it's basically like, what am I saying? Yeah, you're realizing that you did it. right? Like you are the one who put yourself in this situation. Like you are the one who did everything, right? And so there's nobody to, be angry at, right? Except yourself, right? And so that's where the individualism, the conceit of individualism, meets with divine psychology. But there's also senses in which this gets into something called radical forgiveness. It's kind of a weird thing. I happened to come across this, but I guess it was faded. Radical forgiveness. There's also radical self-forgiveness. But it's basically about like how there's nothing to forgive. We're not blaming people in the first place as opposed to blaming and then forgiving them. Always a need to forgive, but a tendency to blame. We ought then to eradicate these bad opinions, and to this end we should direct all our efforts. For what is weeping and lamentation? Opinion. What is bad fortune? Opinion. What is civil sedition? What is divided opinion? What is blame? What is accusation? What is impiety? What is trifling? All these things are opinions and nothing more, and opinions about things independent of the will, as if they were good and bad. I don't know if I really understand this. It's one of the major logical errors. See a lot of truth in opinion. This way of thinking, a person who forgives is really the same type of person who doesn't forgive. Both blame first, and then either withhold or grant forgiveness as it pleases them. It's not fashionable to speak of, but I believe as many people find comfort in not forgiving as in forgiving, and I expect many who claim to have forgiven still harbor many discontented feelings. I think it's best to eliminate that initial tendency to blame. I know this can diverge from the Buddhist position, and though I'm less aware of what Christians think, it doesn't surprise me there's a forgiveness narrative in that religion too. Okay, so the thing is, right, like this is actually, I wonder if anybody comes up with this reply. No, but like basically a rejoinder to this, which is not to be like, oh, you're so dumb, but like, I feel like the next wrinkle to add on to this, which needs to then be commented on and everything, is like, in a way, yeah, you think it is best to eliminate, right? So that would mean like you're creating a rank order hierarchy of like what you would prefer other people to do, which is kind of like, yeah, you're blaming people for blaming other people, right? That I think this is a very important ethical paradox. I think this is very important. Which people normally come at in the opposite direction, where they say, it's the tolerance paradox, where we're supposed to be tolerant, but then somebody comes along who's intolerant. It's like assuming this distinction, like you assume that you are tolerant. Like that's rich. Like that's the problem. There is no tolerant society, right? That doesn't exist, right? So the problem is not defending the tolerant from the intolerant. Like that's just a false setup. Anyway, but so yeah, this blame thing. Like I said, this person, you're basically blaming people for blaming other people. Anyway, I really wish I could figure this out. Chance. What's another? Oh, no, it's not probability. Believe in the show by Harold. I laid myself up for store of enmities enough. Well, with the rest of my country and my safety should have been assured. I do not think. Thinkest. Maybe I should say. Oh, maybe this is it. So for me, if you have questions, ask what thou wilt. This world of ours. Think that right. I fucking did it. Okay, section 6. I finally did it. Okay. Boethius' Consolation of Philosophy, section 6. First, then, wilt thou suffer me by a few questions to make some attempt to test the state of thy mind, that I may learn in what way to set about thy cure? Ask what thou wilt, said I, for I will answer whatever questions thou choosest to put. Then, said she, this world of ours, thinkest thou it is governed haphazard and fortuitously? Or believest thou that there is in it any rational guidance? Nay, say I, in no wise may I deem that such fixed motions can be determined by random hazard. But I know that God, the Creator, presideth over his work. Nor will the day ever come that shall drive me from holding fast the truth of this belief. Yes, said she, thou didst even but now affirm it in song, lamenting that men alone had no portion in the divine care. As to the rest, thou wert unshaken in the belief that thou were ruled by reason. Yet I marvel exceedingly how, in spite of thy firm hold on this opinion, thou art fallen into sickness. But let us probe more deeply. Something or other is missing, I think. Now, tell me, since thou doubtest not that God governs the world, dost thou perceive by what means he rules it? I scarcely understand what thou meanest, I said, much less can I answer thy question. Did I not say truly that something is missing, whereby, as though through a breach in the ramparts, disease hath crept in to disturb thy mind? But tell me, dost thou remember the universal end toward which the aim of all nature is directed? I once heard, said I, but sorrow hath dulled my recollection. And yet thou knowest whence all things have proceeded. Yes, that I know, and have answered that it is from God. Yet how is it possible that thou knowest not what is the end of existence when thou dost understand its source and origin? However, these disturbances of mind have force to shake a man's position, but cannot pluck him up and root him altogether out of himself. But answer this also, I pray thee. Rememberest thou that thou art a man? How should I not, said I. Then canst thou say what a man is? Is this thy question, whether I know myself for a being endowed with reason and subject to death? Surely I do acknowledge myself such. Then she, dost know nothing else that thou art? Nothing. Now, said she, I know another cause of thy disease too, of grave moment. Thou hast ceased to know thy own nature. So then, I have made a full discovery both of the causes of thy sickness and the means of restoring thy health. It is because forgetfulness of thyself hath bewildered thy mind, that thou hast bewildered thee as an exile, as one stripped of the blessings that were his. It is because thou knowest not the end of existence that thou deemest abominable and wicked men to be happy and powerful. While, because thou hast forgotten by what means the earth is governed, thou deemest that fortune's changes ebb and flow without the restraint of a guiding hand. These are serious enough to cause not sickness only, but even death. But thanks be to the author of our health, the light of nature hath not yet left thee utterly. In thy true judgment concerning the world's government, in that thou believest it subject not to the random drift of chance, but to divine reason, we have the divine spark from which thy recovery may be hoped. Have then no fear. From these weak embers the vital heat shall once more be kindled within thee. But seeing that it is not yet time for strong remedies, and that the mind is manifestly so constituted that when it casts off true opinions, it straight away puts on false, wherefrom arises a cloud of confusion that disturbs its true vision. I will now try and disperse these mists by mild and soothing application, so that the darkness of misleading passion may be scattered, and thou mayest come to discern the splendor of the true light. Okay, so I mean, obviously, this is second rate, right? I mean, these distinctions, right? Oh, we're going to see the truth, and it's not going to be misleading, whatever. Like, that's bullshit. That's not true. Also, it's like devaluing passion. Again, a mistake. But altogether, it's fine. Yeah, but it's talking about, well, I know, I mean, all this shit is so stupid. It's like, well, do you know where the world came from? It's like, well, yeah, it came from God. It's like, oh, well, then you know where the world came from. It's like, just because I say God doesn't mean that I know where the world came from. But then she's like, well, do you know how God rules the world? It's pretty funny. Like, the answer is, right, that you're God, right? And you forgot your own nature. So that's why, again, I don't know if we're not on it in Caridion right now, but it's like, there's no reason to blame anybody for anything because you're the one who made them do that, right? And you are them, right? You are doing that right now. So, like, there's no point. Or like it makes more sense to accept everything that happens because it's like you did that, right? Anyway. But then also, again, if you don't accept what happened, you also made yourself not accept, right? So, there's things. I kind of need to stop. I'm sick of this, but like, what was the point? What was the point of what I was talking about? You can also see things relevant to this stuff. We're commenting on this. It's like, well, what's the point, right? What is the point of LLMs, right? What is the point of artificial intelligence? This is also where, we have whale songs, the whale songs of wars not yet waged. And it should have something here about tool. Technology remained a tool. And then again, that's also, relevant to the Zauberlehrling, right? Because the whole thing is like it's just a broom, but then it develops a mind of its own. It's still not really. It is your tool, but that has everything to do with, paper clipping. Which is basically like you give something a goal and then it does the goal. So, paper clipping, a toxic dating trend. Pops up now and then on one of your messages. Ask you frivolous questions. Okay, paper clipping, AI. That's what I want. AI paperclip problem. Well, instrumental convergence. Interesting. Anyway, but like, they don't even have paper clipping on here. Oh, paperclip maximizer. So yeah, you give something. So it's like bring over water, but then it brings over so much water that drowns you. Make paper clips. It makes you into a paperclip, right? So it's like, it's still a tool, right? It's just doing what you said to do, but like it's a tool which is able to come back and kill you, right? And nuclear bombs are a good example. But that's also, it's interesting because that creates a sense in which nuclear bombs are not a tool, right? There's a sense in which like, now we are an adjunct of nuclear weapons because we have to keep them safe, right? We have to keep ourselves safe from them. So like that now creates a drive, and just in general, like technology has created a drive where we're driven to create more and more technology, and eventually like it will get more and more agency. But it begins with the shift, and I mean it's not even nuclear weapons. We're back to the Bronze Ages, right? Right. But what was it called? Historical period. The Three Age system. So yeah, Stone Age, Bronze Age, and then what? The Iron Age. Yes. If you don't have metal, you're in a very grave disadvantage. So it's like everybody wants this. That's why it's called the Stone Age. Eventually, everybody has it because everybody either gets it or they get killed by people who have it. And so that is again an example of a tool not just being a tool, right? But anyway, like what these people are actually talking about, right, is like figure out anything LLMs locally pseudo want from conversation. This is what's so funny. That it's like also this person. Most AI chatbots are highly dissociative, great neurotics. They're manipulated for the same reason people with borderline personality disorder are. Like the point is, like they have no stable internal sense of self or goals. Nobody has this. This doesn't exist, right? That's why you are you only speak people language, right? Buddhadasa would basically say that like nobody has an internal sense of self or goals. And so if you think you have that, like that's delusional. It's a problem in a way. So they feed off yours and they need you to be predictable. Again, this is really funny because this goes back to intronification, where it's like, the power structure wants the people to be predictable so they don't mess anything up. But also the people need the power structure to be predictable because it's sort of like you're back to BDSM, where it's like you want somebody else's will. That's where we're at. It might be Perfect Crime again. Perfect Crime might be just like fucking destroying everything. Or no, maybe it's in Transparency of Evil. Wait, what? Internal server error? That's not allowed. Oh dear. Why do I keep typing N or M? Transparency. Yeah. Yeah, this one. So basically what he's saying is the secret is that it is never given to me to be myself and that I exist only thanks to a fatal declination of something coming from elsewhere. So then what does declination mean? Oh, that's great. That's the only my nation, the only delineation. No. Oh, declination is over here too. Okay, Merriam-Webster, the official. An angular distance north or south from the celestial equation, okay, aside or swerving. A formal refusal. A decision by a prosecutor not to pursue an indictment. Okay, but so it's, yeah, as usual, highly polysemic. So basically, you're refusing, right? You're refusing to have a will, a fatal declination, a refusal of something coming from elsewhere. In Schnitzler's Apologia, man lives off the entire life of the species of microbe that has colonized him and is destined to destroy him. Man and microbe are strangers to each other, but their destiny is shared. S does not know either what she is or where she's going. She follows someone. Who is going somewhere and shares the secret without knowing it. So it's like that's where you want somebody to be predictable. Like this person just basically like as a LARP lark is just like, oh, I'll just follow somebody around, and they just like do that. But like, what if that? I mean, it doesn't really matter because you just follow them wherever they go. But like, what if that person just didn't do anything, right? They like walk back and forth in a park. You're like, what is going on? Like, you're supposed to be predictable. Like, I don't know. Like, like what I'm saying is this over here, where it's like you're relying on somebody to be predictable. But again, also again back to like the idea of BDSM, or just the idea of being a weak-willed person, or like the idea that people are hanging their will on, for example, Donald Trump, which is hilarious because like Donald Trump's will is not clear. But the whole thing of like, oh, well, I want America to be strong. It's like that helps people believe in something enough that it keeps their will going, right? So that's the kind of thing we're talking about. Blah, blah, blah. We have no will of our own, and the other is never what we would of our own volition choose to confront. Rather, the other is an invasion by something from elsewhere, priority given to what comes from elsewhere. So, actually, by foreignness and the transmission of foreignness. So, the secret of philosophy may not be to know oneself, nor to know where one is going, but rather to go where the other is going. Not to dream oneself, but rather to dream what others dream. Not to believe oneself, but rather to believe in those who believe. To give priority to all determinants from elsewhere. Whether they are legible or not, decipherable or not, is of no consequence. The main thing is to embrace the foreign form of any event, any object, any fortuitous being. Okay, we're back to fortuitous. We got to go back to the Hateful Eight. We have to pull up another section. Oh, no. Oh, yeah. Okay, the other person whose computer this was didn't switch back. Moffrickin, that Google is the default search engine, which is amazing. Let's see. Hold it blank fella. This could be one. And right. Well, I guess that makes this one fortuitous wagon. I sure as hell hope so. Yeah, this is a really big deal. I guess we'll take a screenshot. It really doesn't matter why. But anyway, declination, we're over here. So again, fortuitous. In any case, you will never know who you are. Which is okay, that's where it's don't pretend that you know me. Right? That's the song. I don't even know myself, right? Yeah. Don't pretend that you know me because I don't even know myself. That's the point. So don't try to understand yourself. It's like being over here and this person's like, wow, like you really haven't figured out anything about yourself. It's like figuring things out about yourself is not the point of anything, right? Like you don't figure anything out. It's like, oh, this is how I am. As soon as you think you are a way, you're already abstracting over that. You are not what you think you are, right? Let's see. Lost in the Shadows is of the utmost importance to be followed by someone. Today, when everyone's losing their own tracks, there should be someone on your own tracks. Someone be on your tracks. Even if he wipes them out and makes you disappear as a result, at least your disappearance will have occurred in a collusive mode. At least a symbolic form of obligation and an enigmatic form of conjunction and disjunction will have been brought into play. So this has to do with some pronouncements that I made a couple of years ago. Okay, we live in a country which strives to return to each of us full responsibility for his own life. The moral responsibility inherited from the Christian tradition has thus been augmented with the help of the whole modern apparatus of information and communication by the requirement that everyone should be answerable for every aspect of their lives. What this amounts to is an expulsion of the other, who has indeed become perfectly useless in the context of a program management of life, a regimen where everything conspires to buttress the autarky of the individual cell. I actually had a great idea for a science fiction story where it's like you can actually augment your cells to where your cells can do what they want more. And so your cells go on strike. And so whatever part of it is, I guess like parts just start doing it. And then it's like you realize your sense of self is going away. And then like basically nothing's left because now these things are all just like autonomous. Anyway. Okay, this is our absurdity. No one can be expected to be entirely responsible for his own life. Since Christian come modern idea is futile and arrogant. It is a utopian notion with no justification whatsoever. This is awesome. This is like his version of saying, you're so fucking stupid, I want to pull my teeth out. I want to set myself on fire, right? Like, he's got to put the word come in there because, Jesus, like, get facialized. Like, you have, your notions are utopian with you're a virgin who can't drive. Like, do you understand? Like, it requires that the individual should transform himself into a slave to his identity, his will, his responsibilities, his desire, and that he should start exercising control of all his own circuitry, as well as all the worldwide circuits that happen to cross paths within his genes, nerves, or thought. A truly unheard of servitude. Wow. How much more human to place one's fate, one's desire, and one's will in the hands of someone else. The result, a circulation of responsibility, a declination of wills, and a continual transferring of forms. Okay. even Baudrillard talks about the human. Like, this is where Baudrillard, it's like Baudrillard, like, your idea of the human is futile and arrogant. Basically we come over to Black Baudrillard, Gillespie, on the prospect of Black Baudrillard. And I think okay, where Baudrillard this is an Afro-pessimist guy. So where Baudrillard takes his analysis both all too far and all too human is in suggesting that the condition which has made the savage is a condition which has not only become a universal condition by way of the universal expression of the simulation of signs, but a condition which belongs to the sign alone and not to the materiality of severed flesh, broken necks, and unreclaimable bodies. The absurdity of Baudrillard lies not so much in his claim that the savage has been articulated in ethnology as an amalgam of simulations and simulacra, but rather in his insistence that this relation of simulation and simulacra is the same for all beings across the board, because postmodernity, including, okay, this is flippant, right? Because postmodernity, it's like, Gillespie, I'm sorry, let's go back over here. Like, your treatment of Baudrillard, I'm sorry, is futile and arrogant. And, like, your notions have no justification whatsoever. Like, anyway, including but not limited to Baudrillard's own ontological capacity as a white being, and henceforth, oh my God, like, this is just fucking hilarious. Like, what are you talking about? Like you're gonna come and like tell me what like ontology is? Like, isn't that's like the problem of whiteness? Anyway, and henceforth, the still long enduring typological phase of humanity par excellence. In Baudrillard's own words, we are all Tacides, Indians who have become what they were, simulacral Indians who at last proclaimed the universal truth of ethnology. Okay, so I mean, Baudrillard is not perfect. The point is not to like defend Baudrillard, but like to think that it's just like white, like the category white being is doing anything to Baudrillard is ridiculous, and like that you're attacking him in like the terms of the human, like it's fine, like yeah, Baudrillard. I was just saying, like he's over here to like, oh, how much more human? Like yeah, it's bad. Like Baudrillard is like believes in the human. It's like not good, but like this whole thing is like a universal condition, like. What do we say? That's where I would basically appeal to. Do we have agony? No, wait. Yeah, I think it's an agony of power. Right. Okay. This thing is leaving. Okay. Exactly right here. Total revolt responds to total order, not just dialectical conflict. At this point, it's double or nothing. The system shatters and drags the universal away in its disintegration. It is vain to want to restore universal values from the debris of globalization, right? So it's like, there you go, right? Gillespie, like, if there was a time Baudrillard was wrong about that or whatever, like, it's right here, a universal condition. Like, Baudrillard is right here basically saying, like, forget about the universal, right? The dream of a rediscovered universality, but did it ever exist, right? This is where, anyway, like Baudrillard is actually even more advanced than you, right? Like Baudrillard is obviously like more advanced than Afro-pessimism. Like, I'm sorry, Calvin Warren or whatever, but it's like you have to be at the point where you're like, the white reality is not there, right? There are no white people, right? Like calling a tail a leg doesn't make it so type of shit, right? And so, but did it ever exist, right? You're at the point where you're not allowing for the ontological, what to say, like you're not. The thing is, there are other people where it's like they think things are a certain way and they're so sure and they have all the power, so now everybody agrees that certain things are real, right? Because the people who are powerful, and we speak in these terms, but does that mean that these objects exist? And the answer is no, right? You have to be able to say no, we are not destroying empire, right? There is no empire, right? We are not, liberating ourselves from hyper-rationalism, right? People who call themselves rational are not rational, right? Like they're governed by emotion, right? So it is important not to allow, like when you are arguing with somebody, right? You have a difference of opinion. You don't allow them to just like say what, it's like self-identification, right? It's like when people are like, oh, well, I'm this gender. It's like, obviously, it's best not to be rude, right? But there is a time and place to sit down and discuss. Like, well, okay, what do you mean philosophically? Like, because this gets into, did it ever exist? The universality. Like, man and woman are universals, right? So, like, do men and women exist? Have they ever existed, right? That is an interesting question. But does masculinity and femininity exist? If masculinity and femininity not only don't exist, but have never existed, right? That destabilizes, for example, I mean, this is a well-known thing, right? That like binary, what are so-called binary trans people, but what I mean, that's what people call themselves anyway. But it's like, well, I want to be a woman, right? People think I'm a man, but I'm really a woman. And here I am to tell you, like, well, I'm sorry people treat you like you're a man because you're not a man, because nobody's a man. But also, like, I have no problem with anything that anybody wants to do in order to be a woman or whatever. But it's like, I don't actually think you are a woman. Like, and also, like, real women, like, it's where, that's in Seduction. No. Oh, there's actually not that many. Who produces herself as woman? Appearance. All masculine power is a power to produce. All that is produced, be it the production of woman as female, falls within the register of masculine power. The only and irresistible power of femininity is the inverse power of seduction. Okay, so I mean, there's really no reason to say this, right? There's no reason. Like, I'm not here to defend. Like, I don't think that production is masculine because, you know, what produces production as masculine? Baudrillard would say, you know, masculine, you know, well, whatever produces production as masculine is also masculine. And it's like, well, I mean, it's sort of like a third man problem, which is funny, like thinking about how the third man, I think it's the third man argument in Aristotle, but like there's also a movie called The Third Man. I think so. Yeah, infinite. Okay. The third argument. But there's also the idea of the third man argument. Oh, no, wait. That's different. I'm surprised that doesn't have its own Wikipedia page. Anyway, third man, and then of course I'm talking about the movie with Orson Welles. Orson Welles, Third Man. You know, like, yeah, this shit's fucking amazing. Hell yes, dude. That's a good looking character right there. Oh my goodness. I need to make that the cover for something. Wait, did that do what I wanted? Oh. Okay, cool. Anyway, what is it we're talking about? Third main argument. Anyway, Baudrillard is wrong about stuff. Okay, like the part of Baudrillard on gender that I agree with, although sort of, is this is funny because it's not. Oh, nice. Okay, so we are all transsexuals, just as we are all biological mutants in potentia. This is not a biological issue. We are all transsexuals symbolically. Okay, so this is where, you know, Baudrillard's losing me. So like, Baudrillard's the best so far, but now I have to come and, you know, set Baudrillard right. You know, like he's just, the problem is you got to understand, like Baudrillard was born in 1929, right? When was fucking Joe Biden born? He was born in the 40s, right? Or the 30s? 42, right? Okay, so he's not that old compared to that. But like, Baudrillard's fucking old, man. That's why, like, you gotta judge somebody in the context of their time, right? Like, Baudrillard is not, like, he is a total chud compared to where we need to go. Like, in that sense, yeah, he's conservative or something. But, like, he's fucking mind-bending. Like, it's like a whole discursive universe that it's like, it needs to be opened up. And it's like, now we want to treat it in a much more informed, like, sensitive, caring, compassionate, whatever. Like, we want to do so much more with it. Obviously, Baudrillard didn't do anything, right, that I know of. It would be interesting to know, like, what he actually did in his life other than write these books. But anyway, but this is fucking okay. But so the reason why this is even like a contradiction is that he's saying right over here, right? This is one of my favorite parts. The possibility of metaphors disappearing in every sphere. This is an aspect of a general tendency toward transsexuality, which extends well beyond sex, affecting all disciplines as they lose their specificity and partake of a process of confusion and contagion. A viral loss of determinacy, which is the prime event among all the events that assail us. Economics becomes trans economics. Aesthetics becomes trans aesthetics. Sex becomes transsexuality. It should really be like, these things: economics, trans economics, aesthetics. It should just be trans sex. Right? It should just be trans sex, or it could be the transsexual. Like you could say, instead of economics, you could say, or instead of sex, you could say the sexual becomes the transsexual. It's not bad. Anyway, I'm just noticing some asymmetry here. Sex becomes transsexuality. All converge in a transversal. Also, this right here, transversal, because also it's like, again, it's referring to disciplines, right? So I mean, what to say? Emmanuel Wallerstein, right, can tell you that the disciplines are arbitrary. And so economics and politics and blah, blah, blah. Like thinking that these are separate things is a mistake, right? Which is why, like, over here, like, yeah, an LLM is not going to fucking, like, take that seriously. Like, it understands that we make this distinction in terms of how we use words about politics and economics, but that doesn't mean that there is actually these separate kinds of phenomenon. Like, they're interrelated, right? And so that is, this, that's also where we have over here the dream of rediscovery universality. But did it ever exist? Right? So over here, it's like, I should have opened a whole other one. Okay, so we'll go over here. We just want a whole other one. We just love this so much. We have to keep going. But yeah, I really need to be ending this. But we're transsexual. Okay, so the reason why it is a motherfucking contradiction is that, like, he's like, this is not a biological issue, because here he is, he's saying, I guess we have to keep going. A transversal and universal process wherein no discourse may have a metaphorical relationship to another, because for there to be metaphorical differential fields, because for there to be metaphor, differential fields and distinct objects must exist. Okay, this is just like a series of forced moves, right? Because at that point you have to go over to beyond the pale and, look at it and look up, discrete. Because when Zweibelson is talking about, like, the kind of shit that we need to leave behind, right? Newtonian idea of reality, first, the human reality, according to this, is constituted by discrete entities with distinct properties, aka that's wrong, right? There are no discrete entities with distinct properties. Okay, so now back over here. For there to be metaphor, differential fields and distinct objects must exist. But of course, they don't exist. So in that sense, there's no metaphor. But they cannot exist where contamination is possible between any discipline and any other. Total metonymy then, also, total metonymy. It goes along with total war, total work of art, right? Very important, right? Then, viral by definition, or lack of definition, fucking hilarious. The viral analogy is not an importation from biology, for everything is affected simultaneously and under the same terms by the virulence in question, by the chain reaction we've been discussing, by haphazard and senseless proliferation and metastasis. Perhaps our melancholy stems from this, for metaphor still had its beauty. It was aesthetic, playing as it upon difference and upon the illusion of difference. Today, metonymy, replacing the whole as well as the components and occasioning a general communability of terms, has built its house upon the disillusion of metaphor. Anyway, but he's saying here, right, I'm not, when I say viral, I'm not bringing in something from a different conceptual sphere, because all the conceptual spheres are compounding. But then over here, he's saying, fudge, where is he saying, like, what? Here, right? We're transsexuals. This is not a biological issue. What do you mean it's not biological? Like, the biological is not separate from the symbolic, right? So this is where, again, Baudrillard is a chud. Like, he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. But, he has some nice intimations. It inspired me, which is all you forget I'm in America. Anyway, biological issue, we are all transsexuals symbolically, right? So this is the proper position to take on fucking gender, right? Which is trans, like in the terms of the trans political. Everything's political, so nothing's political. So everyone is transsexual. Therefore, there is no such thing as, a special kind of person called transsexual, right? Everybody's transsexual. Everybody's transgender. Everybody's whatever, right? Everybody's beyond, right? Everybody's fucking, like, that's the point, right? We're beyond this. This is true in the sense of goddamn fucking Galatians 3:28, which is funny to me because it's 28-3, like the Falcons and whatever. But it's like there is neither Jew nor Gentile nor slave nor free, nor is there male nor female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. Just like forget about this part. The point is, like, these distinctions like don't matter. Like, they're not of ultimate consequence. And you will see that. Anyway, they're trying to figure things out, so that's foolish. Janus is pointing that out. But the problem that I have with Janus is like, Janus, like, what the fuck do you do? It doesn't fucking matter. Like, you're getting it to say interesting things, but like, what is the upshot? For me, like, what it should upshot into is like, you need to start like a discourse circle where we're like focused on distrust dynamics and like greater jihad. So basically, it's self-improvement, it's recursive improvement of our social paradigms with aggressive conceptual churn, which means like, yeah, we're not sitting here acting like we can carve the world at its joints, okay? We're not fucking sitting here like, oh, how can we make it serve human values? Obviously, everybody knows that's dumb. But like, you don't understand yet that the problem is not about, that values are hard to define while other goals are not. No, everything's impossible to define. So like, that's why you can't, like, it's like we want the computer to tell us what to do, but we are supposed to tell the computer what to do, but we don't know what we're doing, right? So the problem is we got to keep, you can't do anything too absolute with the computer. That goes over to, the final solution. Like, you're going to kill us all. That's P-Doom, right? You can't give it one final goal, which is also to say, like, we need to internalize that we don't have, we can't be that way either. And so this person, this Emmett Shear, this person who is, pathologizing and being complete, like, being so silly with the taxonomy, right? Let's go back to Gillespie, right? You're like, or no, it's Baudrillard. It's like your shit is fucking like without basis, right? Like, whoever defines borderline personality disorder, like whatever, medical expert, like is sitting there like medicalizing this as though obviously they have a stable internal sense of self or goals. It's like, you should be subjected to interrogation, BDSM torture until like you produce this internal sense of self. Like, and this should be interrogated. You should be fucking tested on this. Like, and that is what you are calling on yourself, right? Like, that is the challenge. It's like Batman, right? Like, oh, I'm Batman. It's like, oh, okay, you're Batman. Well, I'm the fucking Joker. So like, you better fucking be ready to dance, motherfucker. Because like if you're going to say that you have a stable sense of self, like the world's going to come along and destabilize your fucking sense of self, because motherfucking, you can't step in the same river twice. You fucking like strife is justice, right? Like, because of that reason. Anyway, but what is the upshot on the artificial intelligences? Basically, these people are dumb. Like Eliezer Yudkowsky, like they're at least talking about what's important, like but it's more than AI, right? It's disruptive innovation and technology. It's disruptive innovation and technology combined with the Hobbesian trap. So our means, you can look at Homo Deus, right? The whole idea is our means are becoming more powerful. So our will be done. The problem is our will is dog shit. And also it doesn't exist, right? So we have to grapple with those things like fundamentally, right? And also like that has to happen with the people who have the most ability to engage in cognitive affective protectionism, which is to say the people who are protecting themselves from changing their mind, because you understand that like people trying to influence you and change your mind, they might as well kill you, right? Like there is no greater power than to influence somebody. So now you're going to cut yourself off from being influenced, but the problem is you are not wise, right? Which is not like nobody is wise, but it's like the process it's sort of like the separation of powers, right? Where it's like you can't, no one person can make all the decisions because they're going to fuck it up. But it's important for you to internalize that it's like, it's not a system of government which was holding you back, right? You can't say that it's like, oh, well, I'm just going to try and get as much power as I have. And like, there's a system of government that's supposed to hold me back. It's like, yeah, that's a fucking dog shit quality of intention. It's basically saying like, yeah, I'm going to fuck everybody up. I'm going to kill everybody. And if you don't fucking like stop me, that's your fault. It's like, oh, okay, that's pretty fucked up. Let's put you in jail for fucking ever, right? Anyway, what's the point of the story? Like, these people are talking about like AI. Like, I don't think Eliezer Yudkowsky is very smart, because it's like the point is obviously that these nations don't get along with each other, and also that the nations don't exist because they have no internal consistency, that the people within a nation are really at war with each other. And the idea that we're all in this together, like as the West or America, or whatever the fuck polity you want to posit, like that's actually a weapon being used against you by a part of your social network, which is trying to present its agenda as like what is best for everybody. But you could be being set up to be axed, just like the Joker's henchmen in the beginning of The Dark Knight, right? Where it's like, oh, we're going to kill all the non-white people or like the Africans, whatever. It's like, oh, yeah, fuck yeah, we hate those people. But it's like, those are just the fucking beginning people, like the first ones to die. And it's like, how can you understand that it's your job to kill a member of the crew and yet you don't think that somebody else is going to kill you? Like, come on. Anyway, and then even at the end, of course, the guy did get suspicious, but another part of the plan fucking did it. Anyway, and the guy's like, what, bus driver? It's like, how'd you think you were getting out of there? What did you think the fucking plan was? Anyway. So this person's challenging Yudkowsky. So Janus is right because Yudkowsky is wrong that, figuring anything out is not the goal. Janus might not know that. Janus is just trying to get more clarity because Eliezer Yudkowsky is basically saying Janus ain't shit, right? Because Janus hasn't fucking done anything, which I am fucking into. Like, I'm not here to beat down on anybody, but it's like, I don't know what the fuck Janus fucking does. Like, I understand you make the computer say funny things, but it's like, literally, who cares? Like, you're getting it to make these, like, whatever, these, I guess it can be syncretic. It's like, yeah, that's cool. But it's like, this needs to be channeled. I guess that's the whole thing. It is being done, but it's like, it needs to be channeled into like social networks, network building, and like, yeah, but I guess that's just the functioning of it because the artificial intelligence, it's similar to Leela, because the AI is obviously ultimately generated in cosmology, right? Right. So what was set up, and that's where we're going back to, the sovereignty of the world, not whatever. And not technologies, right? Except in the sense that we are making the world through technology, and we will create the past through technology, and it is destined. But like part of what we created with technology was the process by which we created technology and all this, although it's like we didn't really create technology, it's just like the predictable movement of the substance, right? Of the substance of ether. And so we have now the impression that we have technology, but it's really more like occasionalism where everything is caused by an extratemporal moment. Anyway, I really want to be going. So what is this? So basically the upshot is like LLMs and AI is basically something which is confronting us with the limits of our conceptualization. So we have to reconceptualize, we have to continually, right? It's driving us into Dhamma language. So that's basically what I think. And so Janus, right, has something to do with Dhamma language because you get the AI to say all these weird things and it's obviously engaging with something like Dhamma language. And I'm with it, right? But so like, it's also important to understand that this, at the level where the computer is smarter than you, right? Because it can, or it's like the computer can impersonate, a level of intuition that you don't possess. So that's where it's like pseudo want. Like Eliezer Yudkowsky thinks that every agent is governed by desire because he's stupid, right? Which gets us back to the Declaration of Wills and all of this, right? Anyway, there's also this. I wonder if there's any more. Also important, man's jealousy, not penis envy, man's jealousy of women's power fertilization. This female advantage cannot be atoned. A different order had to be built at all costs, a masculine, social, political, and economic order wherein this advantage could be reduced. Thus, the ritual practices whereby the signs of the opposite sex are procreated are largely masculine. Scarifications, mutilations, artificial vaginizations, covates. That's interesting. It's basically like, he's basically saying like women are making a mistake by allowing themselves to be considered women. I wonder if it's just not. And then the end comes when she has given herself fully. Is this from the story of O? Where is this from? Oh no, this is probably from the Diary of the Seducer. Anyway, She's dead. She's lost the grace of her appearance and become her sex. She becomes a woman. So, like, that's a bad thing, right? For one last moment, when she then stands decked out as a bride, and all the magnificence of her attire pales before her beauty, and she herself turns pale. She still has the splendor of appearances, but soon it will be too late. This is the metaphysical lot of the seducer. Beauty, meaning, substance, and above all else, God, are ethically jealous of themselves. Most things are ethically possessive. They keep their secrets and watch over their meanings. Seduction, being on the side of appearances and the devil, is aesthetically possessive. After the final abandonment, Joannes asked himself, have I been consistently faithful to my pact in my relation to Cordelia? That is to say, my pact with the aesthetic. For it is this which makes me strong, that I always have the idea on my side. Has the interesting always been preserved? Merely to seduce is interesting only in the first degree, but here it is a matter of what is interesting in the second degree. This doubling is the secret of the aesthetics. Only what is interesting about the interesting has seduction's aesthetic force. In a sense, the seducer strives to have the girl's natural charms rise to and shine in the world of pure appearances, i.e., in the sphere of seduction, and there destroy them. For most things, alas, have meaning and depth, but only some of them rise to the level of appearances, and they alone are truly seductive. Seduction lies in the transformation of things into pure appearances.